The share it with a friend deal, even if that friend is yourself. Your McDonald's, your rules.
Live your best morning with BOGO breakfast sandwiches only on the McDonald's app. Now buy one bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddles or sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles and get a second one free. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid one per day. Excludes $1, $2, $3 menu. Visit McDonald's app for details. Download and registration required.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Radio studios of WDBO in sunny Orlando, Florida, here's talk radio host Joe Kelly's Behind the News podcast, where Joe and his listeners and guests discuss the most important issues of the day, plus the crazy and bizarre stories of the infamous Florida man. Here's Joe Kelly.
I just looked this up just literally the second before I went on the radio. I was curious to see how old Michelle Pfeiffer is. Michelle Pfeiffer is 64 years old. Why was I curious about how old Michelle Pfeiffer is? Because I saw that movie yesterday, the Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and Michelle Pfeiffer is in it. And Michelle Pfeiffer just looks amazing. I mean, she looks as fresh today as she did when she was in Scarface back in the 70s, early 80s, whatever it was. She looks absolutely amazing. So then I thought, well, I wonder how old Madonna is. You know, because Madonna in that most recent appearance, I mean, she just looks so horrible and bloated and made over and everything else like that. Madonna is 64 years old. They're the exact same age, Madonna and Michelle Pfeiffer. And I love what Michelle Pfeiffer has done to herself. That is, maintain her gorgeous looks. And yet, she has gray hair and she's getting older and we can appreciate that. Whereas Madonna just looks so bloated and she's not recognizable. I like when people are able to just age gracefully, just do your thing. Grow old. We're all going to get old. It could be worse than getting old. There are plenty of people who don't get the opportunity to grow old. So I for one, embrace growing old. And I will tell you, as far as the movie goes, the absolute best actor is a guy named Jonathan Majors, who is the bad guy, if you will, in this. He's Kang the Conqueror in this movie. And he's on the cover of Ebony magazine. He's a black man, black actor. He's on the cover of Ebony magazine, and he says like Hollywood's Most Wanted. He is suddenly in so many movies right now. It was kind of like when Pedro Pascal went from like being in nothing to, oh my gosh, now every movie has Pedro Pascal. Jonathan Majors is going to be the opponent in the new Creed movie when that comes out as well. So he's going to be, he's got a real diverse acting skills, and he was just tremendous in this movie. Bill Murray's in the movie too. Meh. Otherwise, it was an okay movie. Is it worth seeing if you're into the Marvel movies? I will say that my Marvel fixation came to an end after Infinity War and Endgame. At the end of Endgame, I said, you know what, I think I'm done. Then a couple Spider-Man movies came out, and they're okay. A couple of other terrible movies came out, Marvel movies, and they were just okay. Could you, if you're a Marvel movie fanatic, can you skip Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania? Yeah, you probably could skip it. Probably could skip it. It's probably not going to be necessary. There are 2 post-credit scenes, and both post-credit scenes tease to what's to come in the seasons ahead. One of them teases very specifically to the next season of Loki on Disney+. So the synergy there is, it's all about cranking out the next one. It's all about what's going to be the next one. And clearly they have been working quite well on quantity, as there's a lot of Marvel movies coming out. They're just not working quite as much on the quality of the movies, it seems. But Quantumania, in spite of the fact that it got terrible movie reviews online and got terrible review with Rotten Tomatoes. I think it was only the second Marvel movie ever to be in negative numbers on Rotten Tomatoes. But it still made $100 some odd million in its opening weekend. It made a whole lot of money in its opening weekend. I will say I went to I took my twin sons to go see the movie with me, and we went to the Movie Studio Grill, which is down there on Earl Bronson Highway next to Margaritaville. So it's one of those dine-in movie theaters. Laurel, have you ever been to that particular theater?
No, I love the British food place right next to it, but I've never actually been to that theater.
It's funny you say that because as I came out, our movie started at noon, and the theater was a little cold, so I was chilly, and I went out to my trunk to get a hoodie. And I walked out right at noon, and their replica Big Ben chimes at the top of every hour. So I heard the noon chime, and I'm like, is there a church around here? And then I realized it was Big Ben, the replica Big Ben, that was doing the chiming, and I thought that was kind of cool. You've been to that restaurant?
Yeah, it's amazing.
But it's British food, right?
Yeah, but their fish and chips, that's a big, hefty portion.
But it's all terrible since it's British food?
No, the fish and chips is delicious.
Okay, but besides the fish and chips, it's all terrible because it's British food?
I've only had the fish and chips.
Okay, then I'm assuming the rest is very, very bland food. British food is so bland. So I'm really troubled, and Laurel, and I think you being a pet person, and I know that you're a human person first, but you're also a pet person.
I am.
But I'm a little startled by this bill that's making its way through the Florida State Senate. A new proposal would turn, I'll read it out of Orlando Weekly. I like how they wrote this. A new proposal in Florida will turn good boys into bad boys by criminalizing just about every dog's favorite way to travel. SB 932, written and sponsored by Broward Democratic Senator Lauren Book. The bill would ban drivers. You'd be banned from allowing a dog to extend its head or any other body part outside of a motor vehicle window while the person is operating the motor vehicle on a public roadway. You mean we can't let our dogs stick their heads out the window anymore while we're driving? We're going to outlaw that? Of everything that's right and wrong in this world. Dogs having the times of their lives, sticking their head out the window with their big tongues flapping everywhere in the wind and their jowls in the wind. We're going to tell dogs no? Sorry, dog. We got to roll the window up. This Florida state legislature, the Democrats in Broward County don't want us letting our dogs stick their heads out the window. You could be fined for that under this legislation. This legislation suggests drivers instead transport their dogs via crate or have their pets restrained with a harness or a pet seat belt. If neither of those are available, the dog could be held by a passenger in the car who is not the driver. The bill specifically bans drivers from holding dogs on their laps or having a dog sit in front of them while riding a motorcycle. Is there anybody who thinks this is a good idea to outlaw letting your dogs stick their heads? I mean, is this a rampant problem? Are there problems of dogs falling out of cars every day and getting maimed or killed? I mean, is this happening somewhere that I'm not aware of this happening? And I'm not being purely sarcastic. I mean, is this really happening? Is there an epidemic of dogs flying out of car windows because they stuck their mouths out the window to get some fresh air? 844-580-WDBO. What do you guys think of this bill, this Democrat senator that wants to make it against the law to let dogs stick their heads out the window? It's one of the few joys in life. Let us have that joy. It's joyful for humans. It's joyful for dogs. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app. You know, I don't know. Laurel, did you watch the Daytona 500?
No.
So the cool thing about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. winning was he and his team opted to not take a pit stop to refuel. And it was down to the wire as to whether or not his car was going to have enough fuel to cross the finish line. It did, obviously. He did cross the finish line. And even though he technically won before he got to the finish line because they had to throw a caution flag out, so there was like another 2 laps after that. After he won the race, he didn't have enough fuel to get his car back to the winner's circle. So he stopped out in the middle of the track because his car ran out of gas. He didn't get to do donuts out on the course. He didn't get to do donuts out in the grass. And he didn't get to drive his car into the winner's circle. And I don't remember her name, but the announcer had to go out to him out on the track. I mean, it was crazy because there was no one to receive him because
they didn't push him into winner's circle. That's usually
eventually
what
they did. Eventually, they got his car to the winner's circle. They could have just put like one more gallon of gasoline in that damn car, and get it there. But it was just really amazing that he ran out of gas before he could make it to winner's circle, before he could do donuts and stuff. I thought it was really, really cool. What a great story. We're talking about this South Florida Democrat senator. She wants to outlaw dogs. She wants to criminalize dogs that stick their head out of car windows.
Having a dog on the lap takes the driver's attention away from the road, just like texting does. So I agree with it, but I don't agree that the dog shouldn't be allowed to have its head out the window on the other three windows.
See, I agree with that too. I agree. I completely agree that having a dog on a driver's lap is a distraction akin to having a cell phone and texting on a cell phone and that kind of stuff. But that, instead of creating a new law, seemingly could be wrapped into the whole distracted driving thing. If you're driving distracted, you could still, I would think, be cited for that. Let's go to Monica at 844-580-WDBO. Hi, Monica. You're on WDBO.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I had to chuckle when I heard this tonight because the other day I went to pick my son up in the car line, and I'd been at work all day and I was exhausted, and it was one of those hot, ridiculous, too hot for February Florida days.
Right.
And I'm sitting there just waiting, mind blown in car line, and I see this car going down the road and the dog in the back, it was a back driver's side, hanging his head out the window just as happy as he could possibly be. And I said to myself, now that is how life should be, right there. And I actually told my husband, I was like, I saw the most amazing thing, and I just thought, I wish life could be that simple for us. And now they're trying to take that away from us, even. The joy of just, sticking your head out the window and taking it all in. So anyway, I wanted to weigh in because I thought, it's just one more thing, right? It's just one more thing they're trying to take away from us.
And I know that the dog was enjoying it, but what I'm understanding you say is it also brightened your day to see it.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
It warmed my heart, and I just thought, that's just pure unbridled happiness right there.
I feel the exact same way.
Trying to take that away.
Nothing makes my day as quickly as seeing a dog in someone else's car with their head out the window and their big tongue wagging, and they always look like they're smiling. I know dogs can't smile or whatever, but they always look like they're smiling. They at least look happy, that's for sure. Monica, thank you so much. I'm glad you called. Thank you so much for listening as well. You can join us at 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app.
Joe, it's a slippery slope. They passed this dog head out the window rule, and pretty soon they'll be banning dogs from texting while driving too.
Yeah, I guess there's always that concern.
Hi, my name is Hector from Eustis. More important than having a ban on animals sticking their heads out windows, I think there should be a ban on animals in stores and restaurants.
Animals in stores and restaurants. I know that there are health requirements and stuff, but most of us, I would guess, eat every day in a kitchen that has pets in it. I'm talking about your home. I'm not advocating to let dogs and cats in restaurants. I'm just saying I cook at home every day, almost every day. Either my wife does or I do. And we have a cat and a dog. The dog doesn't get up on the counter, but the cat does. And we try to shoo her away when necessary. But, I don't want dogs in restaurants. I totally get that. But I like seeing them in restaurants, too.
I guess the nut job that proposed that bill must just be a cat lover.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just about loving cats. I don't know.
In the illustrious words of our president today, come on, man. Because at the end of the day, if you're a lawmaker, Republican or Democrat, and you're voting for this dog bill, you're an idiot. You're just dirt. You're just dumb. Now, if you say 35 miles an hour, your dog can hang out, downtown Kissimmee, you're cruising, let your dog hang his head out. Dogs aren't dying. from hanging their heads out. It's just total BS. Now you're on the turnpike, head out the window, that's a whole different ballgame.
I get that. I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. Whether I have a dog with me or whether I'm just driving with the windows down. If I get on the turnpike, I'm putting the windows back up. If I'm just cruising around town, cruising around downtown, or cruising around, small town somewhere in Florida, I've got my, and then weather's nice at least, then I've got my windows down because it's nice to be able to get some fresh air.
A lot more things to worry about than some dog trying to keep cool in the hot Florida by putting his head out the window while you're driving down the road.
You'd think so. You would think that we'd have more important things to worry about, but our lawmakers, nonetheless, this is exactly what they're working on.
Hey, this is Kathy from Orlando. The next thing you know, they'll be banning dogs from cars altogether. When does this madness stop?
And then the whole banning dogs on motorcycle things. Laurel, I know that you ride or have ridden motorcycles. I would be a little bit nervous riding with a dog in front of me on a motorcycle.
Yeah, not a great idea.
Just because you could have an accident, or the dog could get scared and jump, or you could hit a bump and the dog could fly up. And I do like the notion of you can go down to any pet food store, any pet store, and you can get those leashes and lashes and stuff to buckle your dog in, if you will, so that if your dog does stick his or her head out the window and you do hit a curve a little bit too fast and your puppy loses his or her balance, and if he or she were to start to fall out the window, then perhaps the tether would prevent something very bad from happening. I will tell you that I do have one experience with this, one in my lifetime. And this was some years ago when I lived in Las Vegas. I was following a vehicle. In fact, my first wife was driving the van, and in the car she had our dog. And she made a fast turn, and I watched from the car behind. I was following her home. I watched from the car behind as our dog flew out the window. And I remember it as vividly as yesterday because it really scared the heck out of me. And I stopped first because I don't think she noticed straight away that the dog flew out the window. And the dog was fine. Not even a scratch, but it still scared the heck out of me. And at that point, I was a lot more careful about whether or not, the windows are up high enough or too low or whatever the case may be. Hit me up now, 844-580-WDBO. That's 844-580-9326. Or use the open mic in the WDBO app. I don't know, it was a few years ago. I was in New York City. We were doing a live broadcast, and we were using the Fox studios to do the live broadcast. And this was when I was on the morning show, so you had to get up at 3 a.m. New York City time, and then you had to walk or catch a ride or catch the subway, which we weren't about to take the subway. We were walking to the Fox studios from wherever our hotel was. And I always have this thing where I cannot start a show. I can't go on the radio if I've not eaten first. I have to make sure I have food first, some kind of food that has to be a protein. If I have carbs, it's too much sugar, and it doesn't get me in the right mood. It doesn't give me the right energy. So I'm always looking for proteins before I go on the air. And it was, 3 o'clock New York City, and we're walking. I am walking here, and we're walking, and I was so thrilled because there are food carts at every intersection where we were walking in New York City on that particular trip. We were in Manhattan, so it's very active. 24 hours a day, a lot of stuff going on. But there were food carts that were open at 3 a.m., and I was able to get like this massive, it was like a Philly cheesesteak type sandwich in New York City, and I loved that. Well, flash to here, Orlando. And if you're out late at night here in downtown Orlando, you might run into two food carts. I can always think of two food carts that exist. They both sell hot dogs, and one is at the corner of Pine and Orange Avenue, and then the other one sets up right in front of the Robinson. And they both sell hot dogs. One of them's Sabrett's and one of them's another one. Well, the city of Orlando city leaders voted today to expand that program. See, the deal is that food carts at the moment are illegal in downtown. You can't put a food cart on a city sidewalk in downtown. So then you might ask, well, how are those two hot dog stands up? That was what I asked myself. I'm like, well, wait a minute. How did those two hot dog stands get set up on the sidewalks like that? Well, it was observing those two hot dog stands that triggered really the Orlando, City Commission to create rules on this and to study this matter, and they voted. I'm glad they voted to expand it, not reduce it. And the two food carts that have been there, the two hot dog stands, they're there simply because the businesses that run the operations where the hot dog stands are have granted permission to the food vendors to use their sidewalks, even though it's not their sidewalks to grant permission to. So they kind of cheated, but now they're going to be able to do it officially. Here's what the city approved. They approved a 1-year pilot program that's going to allow 12 food carts to operate legally at 10 designated locations. The locations pretty much run the length of Orange Avenue from Colonial to the 408. That's about it. And then a little bit on the other side of I-4 near the Amway Center, they'll let some food carts set up. And then they've got new hourly rules. The rules say that the food carts can only be open from 6 p.m. until 2:30 a.m. They said that by 3 o'clock they have to completely clear out. They have to last calls at 2:30 and everything has to be cleared out by 3 a.m. Food vendors wanted it to be open longer so that they could make more money, obviously. If the bars are closing at 2, and I'm sorry, color me ignorant on this, do the bars close at 2? Arushi, do you know that?
Sometimes they do. On Saturday nights, they don't.
Okay.
They usually close around like 3:30.
Because I know a lot of states and a lot of cities have like a 2 a.m. last call rule. All bars must be closed by 2 a.m. But you're saying that some of ours stay open later?
That's correct.
So, as the city's been whining and complaining since the beginning of the pandemic that there's no business in downtown other than people getting drunk at bars, I honestly think that food carts might be partially an answer to the problem, because invariably what happens is if you're out drinking all night, you may forget to eat. You may not be eating. And then you go to all these bars that have restaurants in them, and they close the restaurant, they close the grill, by like midnight or whatever. Well, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you're still drinking. 3 a.m., you're still drinking, but you've not had any food in your stomach. And of course, that makes the alcohol all that more potent. I love the idea of having more food carts, just more options for food in downtown. Even though I don't generally eat that late, I might be there for the 6 o'clock opening of the food carts. I sure as hell won't be there at the end at 2:30 when they close those things down. Does anybody have a problem with additional food carts coming to downtown Orlando? I'm on board for this. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Man, I will be honest with you, my heart broke a little bit today when I found out about the poor woman who was killed by an alligator. This is down in St. Lucie County. St. Lucie County is on the Atlantic coast, so it's on our east coast, a little south of here. It's south of Fort Pierce. It's right around Fort Pierce, actually. But in St. Lucie County, an 85-year-old woman that lives in a 55-plus community is out walking her dog, and an alligator comes up out of the pond. And I don't even know what happened. The article I read didn't say a word about the dog, but the woman was attacked. She was attacked, and she died from an alligator attack. Those are pretty rare deaths in Florida from alligator attacks, and even injuries from alligator attacks are pretty rare. Dogs getting eaten is a little bit more common, obviously, but this poor woman, again, 88 years old. I think I said 89. She's 88 years old. She was gardening near a pond. Oh, it's just terrible story. And I mean, at 89, I hate to think of this in terms of actuary tables, but that's exceeding life expectancy for the average person. But what a terrible way to go. I hope she lived a wonderful and life filled full of love and happiness and kids and grandkids, because those last couple moments of her life had to have been sheer terror. Had to have been absolutely horrible. And if you're the praying type, I would encourage you to pray for her family tonight, as I bet they are beside themselves in grief after losing grandma to an alligator of all things. How horrible. My name is Joe Kelly. My number is 844-580-WDBO. You can hit me up in the open mic in the WDBO app, the podcast. You don't want to miss it. It's Behind the News with Joe Kelly. You'll be able to find that in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Some of those even come on refrigerator doors now, so you can maybe listen to Behind the News with Joe Kelly on your refrigerator, toaster oven, or your microwave, or whatever picks up a radio signal, I suppose. We'll continue coming up next. My name is Joe Kelly, at Talk Radio Joe on Twitter, at Talk Radio Joe on Instagram, at Talk Radio Joe on Facebook, at Talk Radio Joe on Truth Social, at Talk Radio Joe on YouTube, at Talk Radio Joe on TikTok, at Talk Radio Joe on PlayStation, at Talk Radio Joe on Friendster, at Talk Radio Joe on MySpace, at Talk Radio Joe on any social media. That's why I feel for today's younger generation, because all the good usernames are already taken. There's nothing left. You'll have to add numbers and all kinds of stuff to do it, but I snagged them all up while it was all new and fresh. All right, we're still talking about, by the way, if anybody's just tuning in, there's a South Florida Democrat who is proposing a law in the Senate, state Senate, that would outlaw dogs from hanging their heads out car windows while the car is driving. Taking away maybe the last fun thing that we have in this world.
Hey, Joe, this is James in Deltona. One thing I've learned through life from National Lampoon's Vacation, you don't chain a dog up to anything involving the vehicle. Just saying.
You know, it's funny you say that. How is it that we thought that was funny when that movie came out? I mean, I remember laughing hysterically at that scene, and Chevy Chase is trying to keep his face still because he is quietly excited that the dog is dead, but he doesn't want the cop to know that he's excited that the dog is dead. How is that funny? Because now it just seems in such terrible, terrible taste to drag a dog to its death. Just saying that just seems not remotely funny. It's very unseemly.
Hey, Joe, I don't mind dogs sticking their head out a window. The thing that I mind is dogs in the back of a pickup truck.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they stop, that dog's going flying. That's just inhumane.
Dude, I am right there with you on that one. I hate seeing dogs in the back of the pickup trucks, especially if in the back of the pickup truck they have a tool chest thing. What do you call it? A tool box.
A toolbox?
Thank you. Thank you, Arushi. If you have one of those big toolboxes up against the cab, and then the next thing you know, this big old dog is standing on a toolbox, not latched in, and if the pickup truck driver makes a sudden stop, a sudden turn, I mean, the dog is going to go flying. I hate when I see dogs in the back of pickup beds. That is for sure. I don't know about going so far as to making it illegal. Maybe it already is in the state. I don't know, because I would think this bill would address that if it wasn't already, because this bill does address dogs on motorcycles, dogs on drivers' laps. Oh, in fact, there's more to it. This bill also, bans dogs from sticking their heads out the car windows, addresses multiple measures related to animal welfare, like banning the sales of rabbits before Easter, as well as prohibitions on the use of cosmetic animal testing and the declawing of cats. Ooh, I don't know how many people that are regular pet owners use their pets for testing cosmetic purposes, but the rabbits before Easter and the declawing of cats, I regret to tell you that I once ordered a cat to be declawed, and I have regretted that decision my whole life. I hated that decision. And my cat now, Kitty George Washington, I assure you, she has 4 full claws of deadly blades hidden under her fluffy fur. I think declawing cats is a terrible thing, and we shouldn't be doing it, that's for sure. But I would think then, if it's not already illegal to ride in the back of a pickup truck, then that would be part of this. That's funny. I was just reading a different article on the same thing. They say that potential damage to dogs' ears as they hold their head out the window. I've never heard that. Have you ever heard that? I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I've never heard that before.
That is true.
It hurts the dog's ears?
Yeah, I had a dog who had ear issues because of that. He was sticking his head out the window.
Would he come up to you and go like, I will see, my ears are burnt. How would you know? Like, were his ears infected, stuff like that?
It did start to bleed, and when we took him to the vet, he had hearing damage for sure. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
So did you stop doing it?
Well, he naturally stopped doing it. So he would drive, and he would stick his head back inside the car.
See, dogs aren't dumb. Cats are dumb. Dogs have at least 3 or 4 brain cells. Last, I'll leave you with this. Senator Blaise Ingoglia, he's a Republican. This is interesting. He has filed a bill called the Reverse Woke Act. So you know how all of these employers will now pay for their employees to travel to other states for sex transition surgeries? Well, his Reverse Woke Act would require employers to pay for the transition reversal surgeries if the person desired one, regardless if the employee is still actively working for the company or not. Imagine someone at your company gets a sex reversal a decade ago. They haven't worked for the company in the last 8 or 9 years, and now the guy wants to change his sex back to the original sex, and the company is on the hook to pay for that. I don't know if Blaise Ingoglia is serious that he wants that, or if he's just trying to make a point. Either way, he is definitely making a point. There's no doubt about that. I'm Joe Kelly.
The share it with a friend deal. Even if that friend is yourself. Your McDonald's, your rules.
Live your best morning with BOGO breakfast sandwiches only on the McDonald's app. Now buy 1 bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddles or sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles and get a second one free. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid 1 per day. Excludes $1, $2, $3 menu. Visit McDonald's app for details. Download and registration required.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.